For me, the Infinity Blade art is a fresh version on some of the basic tropes of medieval fantasy.
Our goal is always to create something that's unique and fresh and that feels different than something you've seen before. And we always thought, what would it be like if we made a fantasy IP? We did something in the fantasy genre. And there was a lot of conventions in fantasy that didn't always make a lot of sense to us. And we thought, what if we could bring a lot of purpose and sense and meaning to a lot of the things that we see in different fantasy things out there? That all of the magic, that all of the monsters, that all the cool things you're seeing are actually based in science that is so advanced and so far in the future that it actually looks like magic and actually looks like fantasy. That is kind of the foundation of Infinity Blade.
We try to make every character, every environment, something that we can put our own seal, our own take on it. So when you look at any of the castles, when you go to any of the locations, when you see an enemy, we shoot for a twist on the formula so that somebody can look at it and go, that's Infinity Blade. When we decided we wanted to do Infinity Blade, we knew that it had to be best in class. It had to be one of a standout visual experience on devices and on phones, and we figured the best way to do that was really focus on the characters alone. Being involved with the character design process is what little kids dream about. So there's definitely this guilty pleasure of when you design a character and you see in the game, there's this giddiness that all of us have not experienced before this project. When we started off Infinity Blade 1, we were so pressed for time that we ended up launching with, I think, 10 characters. And when we looked at the end of Infinity Blade 3, I put all of the characters in one single file, and I discovered we had over 100 villains that you actually can fight against, which was kind of an eye-opener because there's not a whole lot of games that have 100 unique enemies.
Our goal at Chair is to create properties that can extend as wide as we want them to. So in creating things like Undertow and Shadow Complex and Infinity Blade, we're trying to create these unique stories and characters and worlds that are really interesting to people.
The thing that's really great about the design of Infinity Blade is that there's so much jet setting going around. So with the first game, we were limited to just one castle. And we decided with the second game, it would be kind of cool to get something else outside of medieval world. So we decided to take our characters to kind of an Asian themed environment. And it's really cool what we were able to accomplish for the technology at that time. There's lush trees, we've got mist, this beautiful pagoda with the light rays coming through trees. And I love Infinity Blade's color. I love that you have scenarios where there's rich golds with purples, there's daylight, nighttime, and there's a giant swath of all these different emotional expressions through color palette that you go through the game.
Creating the Infinity Blade series has been one of the greatest joys that we've experienced at Chair. We're so proud of Infinity Blade and of what it's accomplished, not just from a technological standpoint, but from a gameplay standpoint, of really creating an experience that we think tells a great story and has such refined core gameplay that really kind of came into its own.
It's funny, the stories that people don't hear are the funny names that we have for the characters. So I think of them through their funny names. So we have a guy named Sergeant Pinkleton, but I don't know what his name is in the game. What is his name? The guy that comes out of a little box.
Maybe you have a name for him.
It's Sergeant Pinkleton to me.